that sound. Well, good morning to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us, our senior working group of the South Bay Cities Council of Governments. And this morning we have interesting presentations, so we're glad you're here with us. I'm Britt Huff, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Rolling Hills Estates and former chair of the South Bay Council, and also director of healthcare and elder law programs, a nonprofit that helps seniors in the South Bay. And we're so happy to have with us our staff people, Lori Jacobs and Ronson Chu, who have helped set up our agenda this morning and recruited our speakers. So, and a little bit later, we'll have further introductions. But at this point, let me just introduce David Legere and Aaron Baum, who from the SBCCOG, who are going to give us a little background presentation on the local travel network. So go ahead and do your thing. Thank you.
I think we're going to start with a little video. Share my screen. Sound. Okay, so that's a little taste of micromobility. And Aaron, do you want me to share my screen, Aaron, or do you want to share it from your end?
I'll share from my end, and if the broadband goes south, I'll let you know.
Okay.
All right. So again, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Britt, and good morning, everyone. We're very happy to have this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about a program that has been well underway at the COG for several years now. In fact, I believe we had the good fortune of briefing the senior services group before COVID, so that gives you a sense of the timeline on this. But the project really is a reflection of about 20 years of work here at the COG, all sort of around planning, and that's sort of the nuts and bolts of what the COG does. We do planning and we provide capacity for our cities and stakeholders in the regions. You're one of them, of course, in terms of mobility, technology, at least from my perspective, and transportation. We do environmental capacity building as well, working with our partners like the utility companies. So just a quick snapshot. It's 20 years of planning, and I could spend all morning talking about all the cool stuff we've done. But effectively, we've looked at local mobility, and this is why it's important in terms of and why it's important in terms of sustainability, climate action planning, adaptation. Now that we're kind of in the throes of an earth crisis, and what we found is that for the most part, most of our trips are local. In fact, our research has shown that 70% of all trips that we make here in the South Bay are 3 miles or less. So, and if you think about it, where do you go? You go to the store, you go to the bank, you go to your doctors, you may go visit friends. The long commute is really an outlier here. I mean, yes, we do travel downtown to go to Disney Hall, or maybe some of us work in other areas of Southern California and Los Angeles County. But again, when you push it out a little bit, most of our trips then, or 90% of all our trips, are 10 miles or less. So if you kind of in your mind's eye picture the South Bay and you drop a pin right in the middle of it, which is kind of somewhere near our offices in Torrance, and you drew a 10-mile circle around, you would see that you could pretty much go everywhere, everywhere you need to go is in the South Bay. So from a sustainability perspective, we're talking about right sizing your ride. We're talking about getting out of your car, the big car that you drive, and maybe finding an appropriately sized vehicle to take you on these short trips, one that's zero emissions and electric, or maybe it's a pedal bike. And how do we do that? How do we sort of go around our South Bay in a safe way? How do we do that with an aging demographic? The folks that you support with your services and your policy and your work in working with seniors. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of what we've been working on, and in particular, this project that's now underway called a local travel network in the South Bay. Okay, let's see if I can get my screen to work here. There we go. So what is a local travel network? Well, the idea is pretty simple. It's traveling on local streets, neighborhood streets, not the busy arterial streets, but the local streets, going from neighborhood to those destinations I just talked about. And if you look at the South Bay, there's over 2,000 miles of these kinds of streets. So the work that we've done over the last few years has been to refine the total number of these streets down to a network, a route network. We're not building new streets. It's 243 miles long, connecting, if you will, within cities and between cities. So if you lived in Manhattan Beach and you wanted to get to Torrance, somehow you would be able to use this network, traveling on these kinds of local neighborhood streets, going mostly 25 miles an hour, going from one place to the other. And you're going to ask yourself, well, how do I get across busy streets? Well, we've spent a lot of time trying to find that sweet spot of where there are traffic signals or four-way stops, which would be safe to cross busier streets. The network is not about the sort of rental market, which you may be familiar with in terms of scooters and such. I mean, that's out there. That's a reality in other areas of Southern California and Los Angeles. But we're talking about personally owned vehicles and the sort of growing wave of what we call micromobility devices. These, again, are slow speed, zero emission vehicles. They could be pedal bikes. That go less than 25 miles an hour. And the range of those we're going to get into in just a second go all the way from pedal bikes to golf carts. And again, this is a class of mobility devices that people can use for these short trips that is not your gas burning big SUV or truck. The network itself is something that will look like what's called a SHARO system. A SHARO simply means it's an acronym, basically sharing the right of way. So it's markings on the road. You may be familiar with, and I'll show you a picture in just a minute of what looks like a little bicycle icon with a chevron pointing in a direction. We'll get into that in just a minute. But let's talk a little bit about micromobility devices. And what David showed you earlier in our little video is sort of a tease of the sort of range of these kinds of devices. The top left is something called a cargo bike. This is an e-bike. It's a little power assist, has a battery on it, where you can sort of, drop the kids in the back, put the helmets on them, or groceries instead of kids, and off you go to the store. Top right, you might be familiar with the sort of what they're called neighborhood electric vehicles. These are electric, street legal golf carts, and you see them more and more in the beach communities. The bottom on the left, at the bottom, is a gentleman riding a scooter. And yeah, it's not a rental scooter, it's his own scooter. And he uses this to connect to the green line up in El Segundo, or he'll take it, to zip around the corner, maybe to the store. In the middle, more and more of these. These are called personal sort of novelty devices. And this is what's a uniboard, okay, a uniboard. One wheel, electric, and a kid like a surfer riding it on the streets. And then to the right is an electric bicycle. Again, someone here in the South Bay who rides her bike pretty much everywhere. She's sort of adopted the lifestyle of, I don't need to use my car, I use my electric bike. Or I'll take my pedal bike to get to where I have to go. What does this look like with e-bikes? You know, we often show, you know, e-bikes and folks riding who are very young, but this doesn't. It's not delimited by age. It's actually something for everyone. And so I wanted to give you a little taste of the different flavors. Yes, you have two-wheeled e-bikes, but you also have three-wheeled e-bikes, which are very stable, maybe a little more age appropriate for someone even like myself, who has a growing white hair and has maybe actually lost his hair. And again, these can be set up with baskets for your dogs, for groceries and such like that. The e-bike boom is here. During the pandemic, e-bikes went through the roof in terms of the sales. You think about it, it's a great way to get outside and not cough on somebody or be around somebody who might be sick. The state is offering a rebate program, which is going to roll out in next year, probably in the springtime, again, to sort of get this market really moving. And again, the idea here is to get out of your car and ride something more sustainable locally. But micromobility, again, using these kinds of devices is more than just personally using them. You can think of it as these kinds of devices can offer services to a community. And I wanted to bring this to your attention because I think we're going to see more and more of these kinds of devices offering these kinds of services. And this slide really shows you sort of the idea of micromobility in terms of delivery of packages. And then we're all familiar with how that economy goes. In fact, we're doing it right now. I'm sure many of us have already ordered from Amazon and we're waiting for our holiday gifts to arrive. But do you really want a big truck parked in front of your house, maybe blocking your smallish neighborhood street? Well, there's a solution to that, and it ranges from a pedal bike in the top left that's sort of tricked out like a car. It looks like a small little truck, but somebody's actually pedaling, to the guy on the top right who's using what's called an Irby. That's a little scooter, a sit-down scooter, and he's pulling a UPS trailer. Okay, and so you can imagine that somewhere else, you know, maybe there's a bigger truck that he circles back to. It's parked on maybe a bigger street or busier street, and he puts packages in, and off he goes on his scooter, delivering packages to your door. He's not taking up any space on the road, really. And if the roads are safe, it's a great way to sort of take care of this kind of business. And down at the bottom, I did want to bring this up because I think it's novel, it's important, and again, it's the future. And in our lifetimes, this is already happening. These are robots. These are autonomous vehicles, self-driving in some cases. And what this is really is sort of the same idea of sort of picking something up in a truck and delivering it to your door. Now you can picture a robot coming along, you know, hopping up your driveway, and you come out with a keypad. It's like a little locker, and you unlock the FedEx locker. It opens up and there's your package, and you close it, and it's a sort of a safe, secure way. You're notified, of course, on your cell phone. But this is out there, this is happening, and I think we're going to see more and more of these kinds of services in our communities in the next, you know, I would say 5 to 10 years. Well, I didn't want to leave this untouched because this is important too, and I think it's something that we would like to sort of circle back with you and this group and maybe talk a little bit about this. It's the opportunity to sort of provide micromobility using these kind of golf carts in this instance as a service option for seniors in particular. And this is a company that did a pilot project in Manhattan Beach several years ago. They're operating a shuttle in Leimert Park and other areas here in sort of the greater Los Angeles area. And interestingly enough, they just started a project as a circulator in Chula Vista, just south of here, for seniors. It's a free service. Yes, it's subsidized with government grants and such. But the idea is within sort of a small community like Chula Vista, which is not unlike our local communities here in the South Bay, seniors can hop on at particular spots. They can even use the app that's down here on their cell phone and hop onto one of these circulators, and off they go. They can go shopping, they go doctor's appointments, entertainment, and the like, and then back to where they live. So it's a novel service. It's again taking the place of fulfilling the idea of the right sizing of mobility devices. Instead of a car or an Uber or your own personal vehicle, you would hop into one of these things. You could even use this to get to the train station, which in Chula Vista is also another opportunity as well. But just maybe think about this a little bit and what it might mean for your organizations as we move forward, and we'll drop back on this idea at the end of our presentation. Okay, we're going to get into a little bit of the details here. This is a picture of what's called a sharrow. You'll see these markings all over the South Bay on particular streets. Usually it indicates where bikes and cars actually share the right of way, the road. And in the future, this local travel network, the infrastructure that we're trying to implement with our cities, will have these kinds of markings on the road and signage on the curb saying, hey, you're on a local travel network. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. But that's the simple system. That's how it works. Operationally, again, connecting neighborhoods to destinations. And I know you all love maps like I do, because I rode all the ones on the right, the lines on the right. But this is the work that we've done over the last many years. Those are the 2,000 miles of streets, the green, identified as green on the left, that have been refined to the 243 miles on the right. The blue along the beach cities is what we call the Beach City Corridor. This is sort of the first phase of the project. Phase 1B, if you will, would be the green, which are the inland cities, again, connecting sort of the inland areas and also back out to the beaches. And then the purple is sort of areas of the South Bay that we believe will come along later on as the project develops. Can't eat all of the apple at once. So we've taken the beach cities and the identified inland cities as where we're taking our first cut in trying to get this implemented. Now, remember, the COG doesn't implement things. We don't have shovels except as sort of souvenirs from the groundbreaking ceremonies. We don't have bulldozers or paint trucks or anything like that. Cities do the work. So our job is to provide capacity, the ideas, and the resources to get this work done. And that's the work of the COG. The project that we're talking about will be funded through Measure M funds, the sales tax, which are identified and targeted for projects just like this one. So again, just conceptually, I don't want to get into too much detail here, but the idea of the network is connecting to destinations. And the research we did, and this is just a little snapshot, it's called a heat map, is showing you how the network itself, the proposed purple lines, really go through these darker orangey colored areas. And you have to imagine the darker colored orangey areas are a conglomeration and aggregation of destinations. And they could be schools, it can be parks, it can be commercial centers or activities, shopping and the like. So this gives you a sense of how we've sort of adjusted and refined the network, working with stakeholders and our cities to kind of try to get this right, to massage it, if you will. It's been an ongoing process. It continues today. The beach corridor that we talked about, this is sort of drilling down a little bit. This shows you El Segundo at the north, going into Manhattan Beach, Hermosa, and Redondo Beach. Interestingly enough, we have what are called islands. These are little anomalies, not so little actually, where one community is cut off from another. In El Segundo, and they're cut off because of speed and safety and roads that wouldn't be suitable for these kind of slow-moving vehicles. So solving for these kind of problems is sort of an ongoing work, is the ongoing work of David and myself, along with our many stakeholders, to resolve this. So how do we? The question that in this case with El Segundo is, how do we connect El Segundo on the west into Manhattan Beach, or from the east into Manhattan Beach, or going further Hawthorne and areas of Inglewood? Not an easy task, because folks are like their roads, and they don't want them disturbed for their big cars. So it's an effort that's going to take a considerable amount of time, stakeholder support, and sort of the grasping this idea and really running with it as champions. And this is just an example. Again, I wanted to sort of make sure that sort of to drive home, pardon the pun, the idea of how the network works in terms of destinations. This is El Segundo again, and within the city of El Segundo, the network is actually connecting parks. It's connecting Main Street, which is a destination center, commercial activities. Schools. Schools are super important, the safe routes to schools. And from a senior perspective, there's a big senior center in El Segundo, which again, if you can imagine, if you will, a circulator like ride circuit that might be available on demand, taking seniors, those 55 and older, to places to go shopping, or maybe to local areas for doctor's appointments and such. And this is I mentioned the signage by the side of the road. The COG has hired a technical consultant. They've been working with us and our stakeholders, the cities, to come up with a brand, a logo that would define the network. And there's been many iterations of this work. It's all sort of there's symbology and such. We went through a couple of exercises called charrette design, where it's an interactive, iterative kind of experience where you say this color, this look, that look, and making it make sense so that it fits into the regulatory scheme work of what signs should look like. It can't be just anything. And it serves the purpose of sort of creating a brand, a logo, something that will help direct folks that they're on the local travel network and to the various destinations. The network will serve as a backbone. That is to say, it's not going to go everywhere on every street. It could on the local streets, but really it's the streets that make most sense in terms of getting folks around. You start from your house, you get to a trailhead, just like you're hiking, and then off you would go on the network. The logo we picked is the turtle, the rolling turtle, we call it. And we're very excited about it. We hope you are. We'd love to get your feedback when the presentation's over. I think symbolically, it kind of gets the idea of it's low, but steady and safe, and it's fun. So that's what you will see on the side of the road when the project is up and running. The icons at the bottom kind of reflect the modes. Again, it's a visual cue that you're sharing the road. Remember, there's markings on the road with bicycles, golf carts, personal scooters, and other kinds of electric devices. At the end of the day, this is about changing the culture of mobility. This is the heavy lift that the COG is doing, and we're working with on the stakeholders here in the South Bay. You just don't get people out of their car tomorrow. Why? Because old habits die hard, but conditions are changing. The environment's changing. Safety is a huge concern. Kids are going to be riding these kinds of devices. They already are. This year's hot ticket is anything almost that has a little battery on it, from a scooter to a bike. And so how do we make the streets safer for these kinds of devices? How do we meet our sustainability goals? How do we sort of shift the mindset of, I don't need to take my car to get to the local store, to Trader Joe's right around the corner. I can maybe find another way. There'll be plenty of education, there'll be lots of marketing, and there'll be these kinds of network development opportunities where we talk to stakeholders and invest them with the idea and let them carry the torch out to their communities. It's going to take time. The project itself, we're in the process of putting together the Measure M applications for funding. We think, and David always thinks I'm too optimistic, but we think that sort of late fall next year, see, I'm moving the needle, we will probably see the network up, ribbon cutting, and activities to support the use of it in terms of marketing and such. So we're very excited about it, but it's an ongoing process. It's just, you just don't build it and they will come. You build it, you support it, and you work to nurture the idea. So next steps, this is where we want to sort of, get you involved and make you champions. The idea we think has merit and efficacy for all groups across the South Bay, seniors most importantly, and kids as well. Why? Because that's the demographic that of our region. So becoming stakeholders in this and champions. We hope that you'll get involved with your city's planning process and implementation process. It's open, it's transparent. We've had many meetings at commissions and such, but they need to hear from you. Why something like this would be important? Safety, mobility, access, all those kinds of issues are heard very clearly and very loudly when it's more than just the COG out there championing these kinds of projects. We want to partner with folks like you and your organizations and the missions that you serve. Safety, again, as I mentioned, is sort of paramount. We've had plenty of focus groups along the way, and usually the first thing out of their mouth is, how can we make this network safe? They get it, they understand the idea, but e-bikes and kids are immediately raise a red flag. Safety. Safety just in general, you know, one of the leading causes of death on our roads is, you know, is death on our roads, literally, the Vision Zero idea. And mobility pilot projects. I mentioned earlier and showed you an example of a senior mobility project in Chula Vista. Why can't we do that here? The answer is we can. But it's about building these sort of stakeholder relationships. We need to hear from you that that's a good idea, if it is, and where that might happen. And I'll leave you with this idea that the COG has an opportunity between now and March to sort of align the stakeholders and see whether we can find an opportunity to do a pilot project just like that. So we may be knocking on your door later. And then lastly, this is about trying it. You know, it's a good idea if but have you been out on an e-bike? There are golf cart dealerships here in the South Bay. There's one that even has a rental program, I believe, still in existence. Give it a spin, try it. See whether this kind of an idea makes sense for you and your lifestyle, or in this context, for you and your communities that you serve. So that is our presentation. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I talked a little longer than I thought I would, but you know how it goes. I get very excited about this stuff. And we, David and I, are happy to take questions.
Well,
Jackie's out here too. She'll hop in, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you so much. What a great presentation, and so appropriate and encouraging for our older adult community as people age to be able to transition into vehicles that, you know, are safer and smaller and you know, helping the climate and so forth. So really exciting. Maybe I will throw out the first question. You mentioned the Measure M sales tax. It provides funding for many aspects of this project. Would Measure M also be an appropriate source of funding if we were wanting to do some kind of a pilot like the Chula Vista circuit a system? Would that qualify, or is there other funding for that?
It would have to come from other funding. Measure M's just for capital expenses, so the infrastructure itself, operations, and all the other stuff needed for that circulator kind of project would have to come from another grant source. Most likely.
Measure M is also not for transit.
Our Measure M program isn't for transit. Right.
Yeah, I neglected to introduce our executive director of COGS, Jackie Backrack, who I know has been devoted to this project for years. So it's very exciting to see where we're at this point.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I just want to add, we are unique in promoting this kind of service, because the powers that be in most of the transportation agencies are working on active transportation, which is by definition non-motorized, and walking and biking. And it has always been an issue to us that although seniors we'd love all seniors to get out and walk and bike, they can't necessarily do that. And not everybody can, people are physically challenged and they can't necessarily only do non-motorized. And so we have all of these vehicles and devices on the market today. And if we have safe places to ride them, they really would, we think they would fly off the shelves, because people would find them fun and they would take cars off the road. So tomorrow, I just want to let you know, tomorrow I'm going out to the California Transportation Commission, because what we decided we need to do is we need to be at forums to talk about this, because it's a whole new ecosystem essentially that we're trying to create that is not recognized as anything in the policies of the state of California. So we're actually not only working locally, but we're trying to change policy and give more recognition to this as a 21st century way to get around instead of the ways we normally think about it. So just throw that in.
Right. Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. This is Bill Upoff. So can you talk more about the Chula Vista micro mobility as a service for seniors? I mean, Lomita's got, and I'm sure many of the other cities as well have senior housing. Lomita's got Lomita Manor, which is 78 apartments, and I'm sure they would love to have a service that would, let's say, take them to a doctor appointment in Torrance. And I think it's kind of, as you noted, kick the tire. Yeah, let's go. Where do they need to go? How do we get them there? And that would also then test a lot of the, infrastructure, if you will. How do we get them there safely?
Right. Bill, great question and observation. So the Chula Vista project is a new one. It's just come online. It's funded through a state program called Clean Mobility Options. It's a sort of actually a significant bucket of money that the state has put out there to provide these these sort of niches in terms of transportation for different kinds of communities, disadvantaged communities that require access, like seniors perhaps and others. The program in Chula Vista is a 4-year project. The actual service that's being used is the one I showed you in the picture called Circuit Rider. Again, they did a pilot up in Manhattan Beach several years ago. And the way that it operates, I believe in Chula Vista, is there are designated stops at different locations. And Chula Vista isn't a very large community. It's pretty small. And so you can imagine stops at where they live, and at shopping areas, doctors' offices and such. So I believe that there's also sort of an interstitial way of connecting through an app as well. So that project is just getting going. It's again 4 years, and what's interesting about it is it's proof of concept, and at the end of it, there's a sustainability plan, right? So that these taxpayer dollars go to sort of proving the concept, but at the end of the day, you're building a service that will be ongoing after the funds have stopped. So you can imagine that there's the model is that it's free for seniors. Others can use it, okay, but they would be a nominal fee. And then what you're doing is you're sort of building the business as you will. So I'm happy to share more with you. I can say that as I mentioned earlier, that we are looking at the opportunities with stakeholders here in the South Bay, sort of to dial into maybe a pilot project or getting these kinds of funds to support something like this. The turnaround's really tight. It's between now and March. So
I don't understand why the turnaround is between now and March.
Well, the applications are due in March for funding that would take place for the next window for the program.
Okay, we are also, I think we should add, we're also going to be meeting. We know the circuit people, and I think we're going to be having a meeting with them because we think this is obviously something that fits so well in the South Bay. So we'll be working with you. If your cities are interested, let us know, and we'll be working with Circuit to see what we can bring to the South Bay.
Yeah, because I think, if I was in fact, I've got a housing authority meeting later today, but, I would think the seniors would be very interested in it as a, potential service. And, it also then says, hey, Lomita City Council, if you will, if the seniors are aware of this potential and they're asking for it, what do we do to facilitate it, right?
Right. Happy to follow up with you, Bill, afterwards, if that's appropriate.
Absolutely appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Yes, Harriet.
Oh, hi, our League of Women Voters Health and Wellness Committee had Aaron and David present at our meeting, did a great job. We were concerned about the e-bike, especially the e-bike safety and the regulations, and how so many different in our city, there's the city working on regulations, the schools, the police, and how do we bring it all together, the regulations for everyone, and if adults are using bikes, so they'll be going to different cities. So you mentioned trying to work with the cities for making things run smoothly. What do you think we could do to get the bike regulations regulated?
Harriet, that's a great question and observation as well. First of all, the good news is that there's a lot of interest and engagement right now on this. So I think from observationally, what you have are different stakeholders all sort of converging on this issue. Police, the cities, the cities themselves beyond the police departments, planning, engineering, public works, and importantly, stakeholders within the community, the schools, and such. So if you sort of look at the population that they're trying to reach, kids, there's momentum going in that direction. How did the larger picture, that you've described is, how do you sort of make this more efficient and maybe more universal across the South Bay? I can tell you that's part of what the sort of changing the culture of mobility is all about. For instance, we had a focus group with law enforcement officials from across the South Bay, okay, representing everyone from the sheriff's department to smaller cities and the larger cities as well. And interestingly enough, they meet and we realize that there are some opportunities for sharing information across these departments, but that's a gap. There's also a gap, and the COG might have a role in the future to help facilitate training ideas. The El Segundo, for instance, just had a e-bike training program before Thanksgiving. It was attended by 19 folks. It was actually, the service was provided by the LA Bicycle Coalition. They now have this as a module, education module that they can bring out to the community. It's not cheap, but lessons were learned. So we're gathering that information and intend to share it across cities through the offices of the COG. Organizations like yourself can play a role, an important role in this as stakeholders. You're engaged in all kinds of League of Women Voters in all kinds of areas and channels of education and communication here in the South Bay. So, again, I don't think it's fully developed. There's a lot of work to be done, but I would offer up, hopefully with Jackie's blessings, that there will be opportunity down the road to sort of bring stakeholders together, and the COG can play a role in that.
Thank you.
Great. Any other input? Well, thanks again for a great presentation. I was going to suggest that, as you're taking this PowerPoint out and about, it'd be great to feature it at some of the local village scene, Peninsula Village, South Bay Village kind of thing, and all the senior centers. I mean, just to kind of alert seniors about these opportunities, because it's for those who are contemplating the need to stop driving and so forth. This is just a wonderful alternative.
I will offer David and Aaron to organizations. We really want to get out there and get people talking about this and supporting it. So if you have an organization that would like a presentation, let us know.
I'll put our emails in the chat so everybody has it.
Okay, great, wonderful. All righty. Well, with that, any final comments from David or Aaron? Otherwise,
Oh, thank you thank you for the opportunity, and to Lori and Ronson and Jackie for sort of pushing us in your direction.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. And so, all right, I think maybe we have one of our PATH representatives here now. Ron, do you have someone online?
I don't see them, but I can give a brief update. I have their presentation from our homeless task force meeting. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll just wrap it into like a general homelessness update. You know,
Sure.
we are seeing an increase in seniors experiencing homelessness due to inflation. You know, the laws allow landlords to raise rent, 5% plus inflation, and a lot of landlords are taking advantage of that. So we're seeing rental increases as high as 10% across the region. And so this is really putting a hurt on seniors with fixed income. In terms of PATH, this is their schedule of where they typically are at on any given day of the week. They're supposed to have 4 people outreaching our areas, but they're unfortunately, due to staff turnover, they're down to 2 people. So they're a little bit limited in capacity right now. And we're kind of seeing this across the board with all of our outreach services. There continues just to be a labor shortage in this market, which is probably why inflation, what's driving up inflation. And so, yeah, if you know people looking for jobs, would love a career in helping people, send them our way. We're constantly looking for warm bodies to go out and outreach to our homeless neighbors. Again, Alley Hop is the best thing to use to let us know if you spot someone experiencing homelessness on the streets. The number of requests have been trending downwards. Not sure why that is, but we only had 6 from September to October. 3 in Carson, 1 in Gardena, and 2 in Torrance. I'll skip some of this other stuff. So these are just the things that they're doing. There's a Gardena outreach happening on 190th and Normandy. These are just some of the hot spots. Carson joint outreach. We also are starting an outreach program with Lawndale. And in terms of outcomes, they broke it down to supervisorial districts, SD4 and SD2. So for the year, they've housed, I guess, 7 people combined in the region. And again, this is just the PATH data metrics. They're just one outreach, team that we have in the South Bay. We have, anywhere from 40 to 60 outreach personnel in the South Bay. Let's see. So, in terms of vouchers, that's still the biggest tool we have right now, although they've stopped taking new applications. We still have quite a lot of vouchers unused in the South Bay that we're trying to get leased up. I think just finding apartments that will take them is the main difficulty. A lot of our folks have, bad credit, some have bad backgrounds, and that makes it hard for them to compete in this rental market. And then some challenges, staffing, as I mentioned. Shelters are constantly at capacity. One of the things I do want to mention is that the winter shelter program is happening. So whenever there's rain or cold weather, things like that, what people can do is dial 211. And this year it's a little different. They're giving people motel vouchers instead of opening shelters. They've deemed that to be more cost efficient. So they are, now they're issuing motel vouchers. So if you call 211 during inclement weather, you'll get a motel voucher. And a couple other issues is that some of our subsidy programs are more limited now. We've seen, we have not as many slots as we did before. And so really what that's saying is that the income kind of tool that we use to get people housed is decreased. So really there's not a lot of things we can do for those who are experiencing homelessness. There's no more vouchers you can apply for. There's a limited amount of subsidies. So really when we encounter someone who's homeless, we can look at how we can maybe augment, if they have income, augment their existing fixed income. If they're seniors, a little bit better off because there's adult protective services and they have a home safe program, which has funding, but it's very limited. I mean, typically what we try to do is get them into some sort of home sharing program, finding roommates that they can pair up to then, rent housing. But it's a problem in terms of what we have at our arsenal to get someone housed. And then just a success story. We have success. I mean, fortunately, even in this environment, we do have success stories every week. Just last week, the COG has, or just this month, we'll probably be housing anywhere from 12 to 15 people at West Haven. So just in time for the holidays. West Haven is this new permanent supported housing complex in West Athens, and about 12 to 15 participants in various COG programs will be moving in there. So that is good news. And people are going to be moving from the pallet shelters into those units. We have a number of high acuity people with mental health moving into those units. So that's great. And we were able to help this person from Janice Hahn's office get housed as well through our COG Client Aid program, which provides security deposits for folks. And I mentioned West Haven already. So yeah, so that's basically it for updates on the homelessness side. Any questions? Sherry, did you have a question?
Yes, I had a question and a comment. First of all, hello, everyone. This is my first meeting here. My name is Shari Farmer. I'm here for holding two different positions. Actually, I'm on two different commissions for the city of Gardena. One is the Senior Citizen Commission and the other is the Human Services Commission. But my day job, if you will, I am the field deputy for the LA County District Attorney's Bureau of Victim Services. So we assist victims of a violent crime. And so my first question, as you were talking about the winter shelters, I know in LA there are a lot of churches that have winter shelters, so there's no pay that anyone would have to do. I'm sure they probably get a grant to house the people for their winter shelter, but are there any churches in the South Bay that provide shelter during the winter time, or is it just calling 211?
Yeah, we do have a few churches that I know of that do provide assistance there. There is one in Wilmington, and I want to say there's one in South Redondo that does it. So those are a possibility as well. The best thing to do to kind of get access to those is kind of contacting an outreach worker, and they kind of have an idea of what churches can provide this type of shelter.
Yeah, I have a long list of the churches that provide that shelter. That's why I was asking. I know there are a number of them in Long Beach. There are a number of them in other cities, but when you didn't mention churches, I was just curious if they too were a part of the winter shelter program here on the west side of the beach cities, if you will.
No, they're not part of the formal program. We did, they did ask us to ask churches, and we did that to kind of set up winter shelters, but for some reason they moved away from that. We weren't privy to those discussions. But yeah, if you have a list, we would love to share it. We have a shelter list that we maintain, and we can share that with the group as well. I can have Lori send that out, but we would love to add churches if you know specific ones that we may not have.
Okay. Also, I just wanted to touch base and say that when you're dealing with homeless, sometimes those homeless people are victims of a violent crime. And to the extent that I can assist them, I will definitely put all of my information in the chat, but there are a number of resources that I can make available to someone that is a victim of a violent crime and homeless. I also have tons of resources because I always say LA County is resource rich, but that doesn't mean anything to the person trying to find it and doesn't know where to look. So I have tons of resources because victims need all kinds of resources. So I will definitely put my information in the chat. And if anyone would like to reach out, I'd be more than happy to work with anyone here.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. Yes, and I want to put that on blast as well. The DA's Victim Assistance Program is terrific. And you do have funding and resources to provide your victims. I think we had a presentation on it not too long ago. I think it was definitely sometime this calendar year. Lori, if you can remind me. But yeah, so it's definitely something that is on our radar. And yeah, so yeah, if you have information, we can also send that out to you. It doesn't hurt to refresh people's memories that program does exist, and it's a wonderful program.
Yeah, I have an advocate at the Torrance Courthouse, so she may have very well been the one that did the presentation.
Great.
Thank
Sherry.
you. Thank you, Ronson, for that. And thank you, Shari, for joining us. You sound like a wonderful resource. We hope you come back and participate regularly. And we particularly appreciate the mention of churches. And for those of us who work regularly with seniors, that would also be a great list to have. So if you send that to Ronson, he hopefully will share that with the rest of us, because so often we run out of resources, and that's a good fallback position. So thanks for that. And B, it looks like you have a question.
Yes, my question is on the churches that provide shelters, would the individual have to go through Harbor Interfaith, or can they just like knock on the door and see if there's shelter that they can receive? Ronson, do you know?
Pardon, say that again.
Excuse me?
Oh, pardon, can you repeat that question?
B, I could jump in and answer your question. Yes,
Okay.
they don't need to go to Harbor Interfaith. If they're just looking for a shelter and a church has some availability, they can go directly to that church.
And how can we receive the list then of these shelters that are available?
Ronson and I are going to work on putting that together and getting it out to you.
That would
And
be great.
As Shari said, she would share her list also.
Okay. Thank you. And do we have to have them screened before we refer them? That'd be the other question. If my volunteers were to get someone that needed the shelter, what would be the guidelines that we could refer them to a shelter?
Well, for the list that I have, they're all receiving monies through the county to allow their shelter to house folks. So they've already been vetted. So it's just a matter of them knocking on the door and seeing if they have any openings.
Okay.
But I think B's asking if somebody just comes to her and hasn't gone through that program, can they directly contact the church for help?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you. That is great. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
yeah,
We
it's
look
great.
forward to the list. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the homeless? Thanks so much, Ron, for stepping up and filling that gap. We appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to Lori Jacobs, our fabulous staff person, who is going to give us a presentation on the AARP community grants.
Hi there. Thank you so much. I'm trying to open up my screen here. You know, you'd think after all this time I'd be better at this, but I'm not.
You need to get a share of the document, Lori.
I had it open. Yes, it's in. You have it handy, Ronson? Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, David and Aaron, for that wonderful presentation. I'm sure all of you are ready to jump off of this Zoom meeting and go get on a bike or a golf cart and start tooling around town in an emission-free vehicle. It was motivating for sure. I'm not one for a lot of exercise, but an electronic device that will pedal for me, I'm totally up for. So this is a great segue into what I've been working on the AARP community grants, because this is an opportunity. People were asking about funding. There are tremendous mobility and connectivity and bikeability programs that you can apply for through AARP. So what I've done here is I have given some information on these. So the 2023 grant challenge is coming in April, but really you should be thinking about it now and developing something and not waiting. And as soon as I have the date, I'll pass that information out. So last year they received more than 3,200 applications, and they distributed $3.4 million. So I looked through the 260 grantees, and I highlighted some of them here. Ronson, if you could scroll up a little bit. Okay, you could stop right there. Okay, so a lot of the projects covered some of these topics. Okay, so public places where you can improve open spaces and access to other amenities. A lot of these things, like I said, tie in directly to what Erin was sharing. A range of transportation and mobility options that increases this connectivity, walkability, bikeability. There's also housing options. They talk about accessory dwelling units and how to make homes more older adult or people with disability friendly with wider doorways and other features. Always a focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, building engagement. If you could scroll up, Ronson, or down, I never understand that. No, I want to go to the grantees. Keep going. Okay, you could stop right there. So like I said, I literally looked through the 260 awards. There were a lot that were very similar. I have a link so you could look through them, but I picked the top 27 that I thought had programs that might fit your individual cities. And just looking at some of these, so ADA compliant picnic tables, benches, and bike racks. You know, we want people to get outside, but things have to be very accessible for them. And excuse me, I've been a little sick, so my voice comes and goes. Let's see, I saw a lot of programs with gardening where they have raised gardens. So people who can't bend over or in wheelchairs, they can do some of those gardening programs. Walkability, giving a walking map. You know, Erin talked about the bike maps, but also maps where people can walk to get to the different places they want to be. Let's see, I'm just looking here. Technical support. And a lot of our cities, I mean, with last meeting here, we had great presentations from Carson and Gardena and other cities, Inglewood and Torrance with their focal point program. You have a lot of great programs where you're offering transportation and programs to help older adults. When you were talking about the Chula Vista program, I know there were a couple of programs in here that had small I guess electronic larger golf carts where they offered transportation for adults. But the thing is, you have an opportunity to apply for a grant and get some of these vehicles for your city or start to develop some of these programs. Can you scroll up a little bit, Ronson? Thanks, that's great. So a lot of programs with ramps. People may bike to someplace, but then there's some steps and they don't have the ability to get up those steps. So, you know, ramps, looking at lots of people with disabilities. All of these programs can be the beginning of your cities applying for that age-friendly designation. This is kind of a first step. Erin, looking at some of these, can you see how some of these could possibly tie in to what you're doing?
Don't even get me started, Lori, but let me just throw this out to the group and kind of think of this sort of in a holistic way. The kind of grants that I mentioned earlier are delimited or sort of constrained a little bit by primarily serving communities that are disadvantaged in terms of the environment or in terms of demographics, income, and what are called equity focused communities. This grant has the opportunity to serve the entire aging demographic. And so you might imagine, okay, a shared golf cart at a senior community, within a senior community, maybe two of them with electric charging stand. And then you sign out the golf cart to go on your trips and you bring it back. So it allows the individuals within the community mobility options they might not otherwise have. So that would be one project I could easily see kind of flowing from these kinds of funds.
That's great. And I'm thinking that if you start with a project like this, this can really, incentivize the community to be more involved. And perhaps with a program that's proven successful, maybe then you'd have access to state funding to expand the program even more. And each city, you need to look at your unique needs there and then share it with the other South Bay cities. We can share best practices. Everybody doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's why I wanted to provide information. There's links there to all of these particular ones that I highlighted. And this will go out to all of you. So you can look and see if that kind of sparks an idea. Bill was talking earlier about, a program in Lomita. And I think this could be a great start to what you were looking for, Bill. So that's basically my spiel for today. If anybody has any questions.
No questions. Great stuff. Would it be, can you send that to the various city planning departments?
Sure. I'm going to send, this will be uploaded to our senior services working group and it will come in with the minutes.
Okay.
Bill, if you have some specific people you want me to send it to, just let me know. I'd be glad to do that for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other questions for Lori? Thanks so much. Very helpful information. So, okay, we're going to move on to our next presentation from the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the Cal State's, I think, Dominguez Hills.
Yes.
And that is Fawn Supernaw. And thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to meet you. My name is Fawn Supernaw. I'm from Cal State Dominguez Hills OLLI program. And we are, let's see if I can pull it. I just did a quick little PowerPoint. So let me see if I can share.
Yeah, I can share that.
Okay, perfect. Okay. You know what? It's not coming up on my screen.
I'm seeing it here. Are others seeing it?
Yeah, I think I probably have to close. Give me, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, I'm just gonna, I can't see it, but that's okay. I have mine pulled up over here so I can look at it from there. But we're a program, and what we say is we're a program for seasoned adults. And we're on the university campus, so we are supported by the university. And we have instructors of the university and OLLI and the members of OLLI teach and facilitate courses. And we have travel programs. We have all kinds of really cool stuff. And we provide, so we're ran, so I am the only staff member and everything else is run by the volunteers, by the members themselves. And so it's a really great opportunity to get involved. Some of my members have been here for 15 years, 20 years. We turned 20 this in 2023. So some of them have been here the whole entire time of OLLI. And members, any member can take courses at the university at a discounted rate. So instead of having courses cost, I'm not even sure how much it is a unit now, $300 and something a unit. They pay $30 a unit. And then also so the membership is $30 a year. And so it's out of all the OLLIs, we have 125 OLLIs all over the United States. And we are actually one of the lowest priced ones. Um, our classes themselves are $10 to $15. And members are like any other student of the university. They have access to the library, to anything. And we also have a special privilege. Instead of paying full cost for university parking, our members get university parking for $20 for the year. And so that's a huge discount from what other students pay. And let's see, I just kind of put in, oh, we do have an open house coming up in February. And that will be, we're going to try to make that so it's a nice show of our different classes we have, and the volunteers put it together really nicely. And it'll be February 18th from 10 to noon. And we would love to see people come out and get involved. And I just put together some of the just a little slide of different classes we've had. We did an ageism symposium, and it went really, really well. We just did that last month, and great speakers there. And then we did, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going through the slides. I don't know if I'm seeing the same things. We had,
I have the age symposium slide.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just tell me to go to which slide and I'll
Okay.
I'll take it.
I have the next slide is let's talk about cancer. It's a group of people that get together, and they support each other through either they've had or have somebody going through cancer. And one of our members made this quilt and used it as in a drawing to give to one of the women that were there. We do a series called Saving Democracy, and this is just some of the photos from that. And the next slide too is also we had some City of Carson candidates, and also the Mayor Pro Tem came out and did a question and answer just not too long ago. And let's see, we had this was our 10th annual Juneteenth celebration, and the members put this together. And yes, the woman in the slide doing the splits is over 80 years old. And let's see, that's more of our Juneteenth on the next slide. And that's it. But I wanted to share a little bit about our program, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Well, now, is this a continuation of, I know there was a long time previous adult ed program out of Dominguez Hills. Is this a continuation of that, or is this, are you familiar with the program that I'm thinking of? As I say, I wasn't a part of it, but I remember there was one.
I believe that before it was Ollie, it was a senior program, and the Osher Institute is a grant that we received, an endowment that has helped us grow the program and continue it. So yeah, but still part of the university.
Okay, great.
And what is the age of of people that are eligible? Is it 65 or 55?
50 and above.
50. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's great.
Yes. So we have all ranges from, our classes that we have. Most of our classes on weekends are online, but that's where we have more of our people that aren't retired, and if we have a class in the evening, those are the people that aren't retired yet, and then during the day is more of our retired members.
Fawn, can you put your email information in the chat?
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that would be something, Bronson, that would be great to send out also to everybody to field to our senior centers around the South Bay, because that's a wonderful opportunity to do some continuing education for our seniors.
And we have some really great programs. We do an exploring opera series, and then they'll end up going to the opera after, one opera show afterwards. We have special interest groups like book club and reading plays, and they do urban hiking. And then we have a travel group, and they play tennis twice a week. We have a huge tennis group. I think there's like 40 people in the tennis group. And then we have the classes like Spanish, French. The Saving Democracy was a really popular one. We have a jazz course that he does a different series of jazz each semester.
Great. Well,
And
thanks.
I'll also provide you guys with our new catalog as soon as it should be done by January 15th.
Oh, good. Great. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate
Thank you.
Mhm. And okay, we'll move on to item 7. I don't see any legislative offices here today. Am I right about that, Ron?
Yeah, I don't think there is any updates. Eric didn't have any updates from Marisucci's office.
Do you say Eric is here or he does not?
Oh, no, he does not have, he had to leave, but he had no updates.
Oh, okay. And just wanted to recognize Bill Uphuff again, city council member from Lomita, and thanks so much for your participation. And maybe share a little bit about what your city is doing in support of the homeless there. You mentioned the backpack program.
Yeah, we're doing a number of things, and actually what we're doing is, and again, it's a individual that's done this the last couple of years. They've gone out and purchased a lot of sleeping bags, and they go out to various unhoused camps, if you will, and hand out sleeping bags. And I think this past year we handed out roughly 100. We're targeting to do another 100 this year. I did reach out to Ronson and said, hey, do you have some potential locations? He responded back to the path update and some other some other opportunities that we can use for some funding. So yeah, we're just trying to reach out and do what we can for the holiday season.
Wonderful. Thanks for doing that. And
I'm sorry, if I could,
yeah.
Britt, I'm
Sure.
sorry.
Yeah.
Bill, this is Shari Farmer again. I would love to team up with you and give you some socks. Socks is always the #1 thing that homeless people request.
Wow. Yeah.
We're all in.
So yeah, I've put my email, I'll put in my email address in the chat again, but please reach out to me. I'd love to donate some socks to your cause.
Perfect. Great. Appreciate it.
Yes. What a great connection. Thank you. And I don't see any other city council members. Do Ron, anybody else we want to introduce? I know we're getting new council people being installed in the next week or so.
Yeah, no, I don't see anyone else.
Okay, well then let us move on to item 8, and that's our update from our executive director of the COG, Jackie Backrack.
Well, hi, you heard our local travel network, which is consuming a lot of time. We also just recently received a grant from the Public Utilities Commission to look at more of our broadband and how we can extend our South Bay fiber network. So we're going to be working on that and but we're having kickoff meetings to figure out how we're going to delve into that. It's going to focus a lot on the disadvantaged communities, but we're trying to do a market assessment of what people are paying throughout the South Bay and what the needs are. So we'll try to be doing that soon in the next, I think it's 10 months. So that's a big news for us. The other programs I think are just rolling along. I don't know that I have anything special to say other than that we're heavily involved in getting our General Assembly ready now. General Assembly will be March 23rd. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, it's a free event because we have sponsorships. So if you know anybody that wants to sponsor us, we would love to have sponsors. If you sponsor at the level of $2,500 or higher, we have an exhibit hall and you can have an exhibit table. And the event is going to be addressing, this year we're going to be trying to address a lot of the issues that are like state conflicts state goal conflicts, like we're building housing, but we don't have water. We are asking for people to buy electric vehicles, but we have concerns about the grid. So we're going to be talking about some of these and what the South Bay is doing to lead the way in trying to address some of these challenges. Registration is open. I think if you go to our website, you can actually register for the event. And then the last thing I'll mention is we're going to have our second annual, it looks like it's annual, photo contest. Last year we had collected photos starting January 1st to February, I think this year it's to February 10th. And we're asking people to take photos of their favorite landmark in their city. Last year, we only got coastal photos. So we're not looking for coastal photos. We're looking for something in your city that's a landmark other than the coast. And what we're going to do is narrow the choices down, and we haven't decided yet, we might have the voting actually before the General Assembly, but whatever we do, we're going to have the winner announced at the General Assembly. So if you're a photographer, please join our photo contest. I think that's it.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Jackie. Okay, well, so we always like to wrap up our meeting by giving members attending a chance to give any updates on what they're doing and any announcements of upcoming events. So you can either raise your hand in the chat or just wave your hand in person. Anyone, B, would you like to give us any update on what you're doing over there at Focal Point? And you're muted. There you go.
We are still taking requests by phone. Most of them are elder abuse and of course housing. Our numbers are down, and I think that's because of families are here in the South Bay now with their loved ones and giving them support. It's just very slow right now, but we're here to give them support and give them proper referrals.
Wonderful.
Yeah. We still though are in our directory. It is online with our city, and this last month we had 104 inquiries, which means they went online to look for resources. So that was great. Thank you.
Good, thank you. And that's a project of the City of Torrance, the Focal Point Outreach. Yeah. Okay, anyone else? Yes, Diane.
Okay, so in Hawthorne, up until now, we're still giving out frozen meals. As you know, the Torrance YMCA is our provider for lunches. So on Wednesday, they bring out 7 frozen meals with all the whatever goes with it to the seniors. They drive up and they put it in their cars. Effective, hopefully on record, we're looking for January 17th, we will be back to giving out or having our hot meal program back. So just one.
Yeah, wonderful. So at this point, is the Torrance YMCA only doing frozen meals?
Right. For
Okay.
us and Lennox, because Lennox picks up here also. And they also handle Carson. I think they're still getting frozen meals. And I'm not sure if they're doing the hot meals in Torrance. I'm not sure yet of that.
Okay. So do you have to provide someone from your senior center to pick up the meals each day, or does the YMCA deliver to Hawthorne?
They deliver some, but they come once a week. So there's 7 frozen meals.
Okay.
And fruit for 7 days, and milk and bread and some juices to fit for 7 days service.
So seniors have to have a big enough freezer to put those in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it would not work for the homeless because you have to refrigerate the food. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. Anyone else? Yeah. Be another point.
Yes. Torrance is serving regular meals, hot meals at lunch. And we have been doing that for the last 2 months, I believe. And we do not deliver any of our meals, but they're very well rounded and they're just really good, very nutritious.
And that's at Bartlett and which other senior center?
it's just Bartlett is where everyone comes. That's the main senior center.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Great, thank you. Anyone else have something cooking in your area? Yes.
Hi, excuse me. I've been very ill, and so I'm just getting my voice back.
Oh,
I just, speaking from Beach Cities Health District through our community services program with our seniors. It's that time of year that we are doing our holiday gift bag program. So for people who are clients of our program, we're going to be delivering over 200 plus holiday gift bags in the next week or two. They're being assembled this evening by some excited Girl Scouts.
oh,
And
wonderful.
yeah, so we do ask a lot of the community members to contribute to that if they have an interest in that. And I do think we have enough volunteers this year, but it's always something to put out there that we are always looking for volunteers to either work in that program or help support that program. Or we have, I think, over almost 50 volunteers who are going to be delivering those bags out into the community. So it's a really nice community event for the holidays and for a lot of our clients who would not get any sort of acknowledgement or gift otherwise. So that's something that's happening that's very holiday specific. And then also we've just recently restarted our work with Redondo Beach Police Department to do what we call Redondo Beach Cares programs, which is when officers actually do sort of friendly visits to assigned seniors out in the community. We're starting it more as a pilot right now. It was happening before COVID, but then has obviously was shut down. And then so very excited to have that partnership with Redondo Beach Police, and that they're going to get their officers out there doing some visits, just to have a more pleasant experience than, for example, when they get called out to do welfare checks or some sort of other type of call. So looking forward to that partnership growing and expanding in the future as well.
Great, thank you. So with the 200 members that you have, what are the requirements or qualifications to be part of that?
So generally speaking, in order to receive a holiday gift bag, you would need to be a client of our Beach Cities care management program. And so that would just, I mean, it's open to anybody who's 60 and older living in the 3 beach cities, Manhattan, Redondo, or Hermosa. And that's my bread and butter right there, is community services and care management. And so it's a free service. There are some volunteer programs through Beach Cities Health District that are available, that we're always looking for volunteers for, such as sort of a friendly visiting or errand volunteer program. And then also they can receive some subsidized services through us if they're income eligible. And so sometimes people who just need a little extra help in the home or some personal care or somebody to go with them to get groceries, we can provide some limited support for those types of things as well. But yeah, definitely always something that we see through the holidays. I think somebody was mentioning the holidays, their loved ones are all in town, and so things do quiet down. And then what happens after the holidays is our phones blow up because after people have spent that time with their family or trying to be with their family, they realize a lot of the deficits that are taking place that they may not have noticed. And so then they're reaching out and looking for more community support. So we're always happy to provide that support if eligible.
And the in-home support, is that like through the county IHSS, or do you have your own?
No, I mean, IHSS is for those who are Medi-Cal, eligible, that would qualify through their Medi-Cal. And we do have some, but we do have a lot of people who whose income is either just above that Medi-Cal eligibility or, somewhere between that $20,000 to $45,000 range. And they've aged in place here. And so they don't qualify for those benefits, but they would qualify for our subsidy, meaning that they could get something at maybe half cost for an actual in-person, from a home care agency for a 4-hour shift once a week.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Information. Hey, yes. Yeah, Lori.
Hi, thank you. All these programs are so inspiring. Thank you, everybody, for all the work that you're doing. I just wanted to mention two things. The homeless count shows that one of the fastest growing demographics of people experiencing homelessness are older adults in the South Bay area. From the last count 2 years ago, it's up 42%. It's, I mean, I want you to really think about that number. So remember the home sharing program, because this is truly a program that can be prevention if somebody's on a fixed income, costs are going up. So please remember that program. And besides the Home Share South Bay, I do have the Affordable Living for the Aging with Miriam Hall, who specializes in older adults. But the other thing I wanted to share is more on a personal level. I've had some health challenges in the last couple of weeks, and I want to remind people and do some PSA announcements, and for you too, that to recognize the symptoms of a medical emergency, women have a tendency to downplay them. Okay, they're martyrs. Sorry, men are sissies, women are martyrs. and it's a general statement, Bill. Sorry. But the thing is women will just say, oh, it's you know, nothing. It's just an anxiety attack. It's just this or that, and they wait to call for help. And so we need to send reminders, because I've paid attention to those, and it helped me, that when in doubt, call for help. Who cares if you go to the hospital and they say it was heartburn or indigestion? Okay, just take, you know, don't take chances. And I think that, you know, COVID is rearing its ugly head more. The RSV virus, which I've had, is all over the place. It's affecting a lot more adults than ever. So we really need to get information out to people to understand what to do with COVID, what to do with RSV, what to do with any other medical emergencies that you're experiencing. Anyway, that was something I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. And thanks also for mentioning the Home Share South Bay. Now, can we refer people to you to get connected, or what is the best way for people to tap into that?
I think that's probably the best way, Britt, because I can look at the situation and determine, is Home Share South Bay the best avenue, or is maybe Affordable Living for the Aging, or possibly other options. So yes, I'm happy to have them refer to me.
Okay, wonderful. And yes, Harriet.
Oh, hi. I'll tell you a few things that we're going to be doing at our League of Women Voters of the Beach Cities Health and Wellness Committee. It's December 13th from 1 to 2:30. So we are covering some things regarding transportation, and also an intergenerational program. And so for transportation, Grace Payne, our member, is going to, she's a scientist and a daughter of mobility impaired seniors. And she's been studying the mobility challenges of seniors and children in the beach cities. And she's going to share some of her findings and explain how to do a walk audit of your area, how to identify mobility barriers and fixes, and how to lobby for better transportation infrastructure. And then we're having a couple of other reports from people who have talking to people in Manhattan Beach Adult Center about their transportation use.
Harriet, that's great, because if you look at the AARP information I'm going to send to you, there were a couple of community grants that focused on intergenerational. Yes, thank you. Told you, not feeling 100%, but they had programs from everything from bike safety, walking programs. So thank you for bringing that up.
I think you did a great job of giving us a direction to look for as to what maybe we could get the money for. Yes, that was a very good thing to do. And then for that intergenerational program, Seekers and Sages, Marcia Salvery from the West Side Pacific Village is going to explain more about that. And so And then we have a League of Women Voters California Healthcare Interest Group. And so we're having reports from them and what other programs that are going on now for seniors.
Great.
Okay, so let's see, I guess I can give you the program is kind of a mix and match of things. So that's why I didn't say anything, announce it before, but I could give you the, so it's December 13th, 1 to 2:30, and then I could give you it's a Zoom meeting, the Zoom ID.
Oh, okay. And maybe can you send that to Lori, and she can include that in her report that she sends out.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Thank you. Yes, and B, did you have another point?
Yes, this question is for Rosalie. On your pilot program with the Redondo Beach Police Department, how long have you been doing this? And how are the residents chosen to have the visit?
So we did it for about 2 years before COVID. And it was something that was we were approached by the police department in a way to sort of create better relationships and better understanding for the police officers to work with older adults. And, we have a great police department in Redondo Beach. And so they were very invested. And then obviously then we had COVID and everything shut down. So it's really just been in the last 3 months that we've restarted. I just actually went to their annex about a couple weeks ago and really spoke to them about sort of what we're looking for as far as the connections. So right now we're just starting with six residents, 6 clients. And so it's all the people who are interested. We just asked our clients to see if they would be interested in growing a community relationship with a police officer. And so, for some, that is something that they're interested in doing and learning more about. And so they just came to us through volunteering, just asking, and they volunteered. And so, and then I think, the goal is really just to have the officers at least stop in once a month and introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they do. In the past, we had some really great relationships where they were actually like meeting up for coffee, or like she was knitting. I think she knitted him, his granddaughter, some things for her baby. And so, there were some really nice friendships that came out of that program. And so, it might be a little bit different this time because they might not be able to guarantee that the same officer will see the same person every time, but it is really just sort of a way to create goodwill and education for the newer officers specifically that, just haven't had a lot of exposure to older adults, to older adult issues, to finding what they find when they open the door and, ascertaining whether it's something that's an emergency or that's not an emergency. And so that's really the goal of what we're trying to do. But yeah,
So
it's just
the participants then just volunteered.
Yep, they have to be clients of we use our care management program for lots of things. So yeah, they have to be members of our care management program. And then they just indicate that they're interested in having a police officer come visit them. And as long as they live in the Redondo Beach area, they're willing to do that.
Great. That is wonderful. They're human beings. They're seeing them as human beings.
Exactly. It
Oh,
normalizes it. It normalizes it for both ends. So for both people. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Any last announcements? How are we doing, Ron and Lori? Are we ready to wrap up here? Okay, well, our next meeting is, we meet every other month, so it'll be January 24th, Tuesday, January 24th, same time, 9:30 to 11:30. And we wish you all a wonderful holiday and look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank-
everybody. Have a good holiday.
See you. Happy holidays.